Americans in America, like, and being from the states, uh, North and South America, in different cultures, people know the continents differently. Um, Even the demarcation between Africa and Asia in some cultures is marked differently, just like, and especially Asia and Europe, where the marker is and where it isn't. But yeah, North and South America, it's one landmass. Yeah, in depends on what culture you're at. Where is it one continent or two? Uh, in Over here, there's North American, South American, and even Mexicans. A lot of times will say, North American, they put Norte Americano, which means North American, even though Mexico is firmly in North America. A lot of times it's the Americas. Why are Americans called Americans? A lot of people call us Americans. We call ourselves Americans. This is America. Why? It's not to say that Canada and Mexico and Panama and Colombia and Argentina and Brazil aren't in America. It's that this was the United States of America. I think it should have been the United States of Colombia, because I don't agree that Vespucci gets Vespucci gets the big name and not Columbus. So I'm all for it being the United States of Colombia, except there already is a United States of Colombia, or maybe it's the Republic of Colombia. I don't know. But yeah, and then Canada was Canada, United States of Mexico, and all these things like El Salvador and whatever. As for it's strange with the Italians, so I mentioned them. Well, first of all, I should add, if you say you're a Native American, that means um, you're I mean, it's a misnomer because it's the Menominee, the Potawatomi, the Cherokee, the I don't want to say the indigenous people, because if you've been here for 400 years, whether you're a descendant of a black slave, an Irish slave, an Italian immigrant, a French colonist, an English settler, who the hell is native? Not to mention that the Algonquins totally stole the Cherokees' land and drove them up into the mountains, because at the time of Columbus, the Cherokees were on the coast and they were driven up into the mountains by the Powhatan. As for you, yeah, you and Ustad, English really stepped away from the Latin construction, of thee, thy, thou, thus. That was all the Anglo-Saxon kind of getting pushed into the Latin form or setting of things. Just like we don't have gender in our language, it's gender neutral. I once had a sociology class where the teacher said that English was such a sexist language because we called ships she. Well, most people don't. That's kind of old. It'd just say it, but I think it's more proper to have gender specific nouns, tu and usted, you and you. This is what I was saying about the Italians. If somebody's from Italy, another person's from Italy, whether it's 4 generations, 6 generations away, where's your family from? You're from Bari? Are you from Emilia Romagna? Are you from, Pisa? Are you from the Po Valley? Are you from Rome, Naples, east, north, south? Where? Or people won't say they're Italian, they'll say Sicilian. No, what part of Sicily? Or then the southern Italians, like somebody from Bari, will get along with somebody from Sicily, but maybe not north. It's very odd. But yeah, you wouldn't, if I said, "What are you?" you would respond with your ethnic identity. You would say, "I'm just an American," because I would almost be offensive to the natives. But that's kind of stupid that we do that, because why are they native? They actually weren't even the first peoples to get here. We know that now. The Clovis weren't the first. Yeah. But when people come over here, the people who are of Irish, Italian, Pole, knew how hard and how brutal it was over here for their ancestors. So there's just kind of hospitality built into us, plus the roughness of the wilderness of there being no state out here when we originally got here, or the people who are out here hating us coming. We want to be generous and nice to the foreigners, right? There's some kickback with the massive immigration from especially Mexico, but other parts of Latin America, but really especially Mexico, and the influx of the Desis, and it's really not the Arabs, it's more the Desis. But you have places like Dearborn where there's a lot of Arabs, and it's usually not race, it's usually culture with that thing, except with, well, even the Native Americans and the Mexicans, a lot of they don't get along because I know some Native Americans that are always pissed that the Mexicans think that they know Spanish because they think, oh, you look like us, and but yeah, it's not rude or intrusive. It's, hey, let's not act like, how the Anglo-Saxons treated us. And especially if you're from the motherland, because that's where your ancestors and your culture is from. If somebody who has grandparents from southern India and they move to England, when they look at Stonehenge and they think of the kings and queens of Europe, does that include them? Can they say my ancestors and think of England? Or do they think, oh, our people and our ancestors, India? This isn't as do with it. You may think that's racist or something, but it's just, what does it seem like? Saying, oh yeah, when we settled this land, who's we? You mean the anti-Catholic Protestants, that were hanging Catholics in England? And then treated the Irish like, well, basically brought them over as slaves, and then treated the Italians and the Poles as shit. That's why even a lot of the people who are here, the recent immigration for the last 50 years, it was important to be American, to get rid of your old identity. No, we're Americans. That's why a lot of people, if you know people who came here from Latin America from 20 years ago, they wouldn't teach their kids Spanish. You're going to be American. Just like the Italians or we're not going to teach you that, because it was seen as, why would you want your child to be different? That would be harder for them. Now it's, who cares? Now it's, because it used to be we should comply with their culture. And I'll mention commenting on America, because there were shitty things like El Salvador and stuff like that. I was just referring to internal laws like the Second Amendment. Oh, you just say, oh, because it's written in the Constitution, that's not a good enough argument. Well, yeah, it is. For the First Amendment, it is. You don't have to give some articulate defense of why free speech. You could say it was right there. Right there. That guarantees me that the government shall not infringe on religion or speech or free assembly. You don't each time need to make a whole great argument of why that should be there. And if the people of the United States don't want it there, we need a, supermajority to change it. We can change it because it's in the amendments. And people say, oh, it's like it's some immutable law in the Bill of Rights. Well, it's called the 10 Amendments, for God's sake. Originally, they didn't want to have them in there because they said, we never gave power to the government to give us these laws. These laws are God-given, whether you think that's nature, the one God, the Freemason God, the universe. But why is the government commenting on these or even speaking about them? We never gave them the power, because the rights don't come from the government. That's why the government, it's negative laws. The government shall not do this or that, most of the time. Peace to you. And I hope that if this hasn't explained it well enough, or you have other questions, please ask, because I felt I explained it insufficiently in that video.